Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting, January 12, 2015. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing afterwards for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's a moment of silence for Walter Pulsiver. Those of us who knew Walter, Skip was his nickname. A longtime resident of Abington, passed away on December 31st. Skip served on both the Abington Historical Society and I served along with him on the Historical Commission. Skip will be deeply missed by his family and friends. Thank you. Public announcements. We have quite a few of them, starting at the end of the table. Mr. Freeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two announcements from the Board of Health. One is to take a deep breath, living with COPD. Designed and presented by clinicians from Norwell VNA and Hospice, takes a realistic look at life with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The presentation outlines COPD's effects and risk factors and offers a review of medications and suggestions for disease self-management. Questions and answers follow the presentation. This program is free and offered by the Norwell Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice at the Abington Senior Center on Monday, February 23rd, from 10 to 1. And next from the Board of Health is to remind the residents that Christmas trees will be collected curbside January 17, 2015. They must be out by 7 a.m. Trees must be completely bare with no lights, decorations, or stands. It cannot buried in the snow because of the metal content. Wreaths will not be picked up. Thank you, the Board of Health.
Thank you. Maureen?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This announcement is with regard to the annual HUG Foundation Bruins Alumni Hockey Game. It's set to take place Saturday, January 24th, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Rockland Ice Rink at 599 Summer Street in Rockland. Join the HUG Foundation for their annual charity hockey game. Tickets are only $10. Bruins alumni will sign autographs between periods. Sponsorship and advertising opportunities are available. For more information, contact Alex Bazanson at btadevelopment@aol.com.
Thank you. Tom?
Mr. Chairman, I have two from the Abington Youth Sports Leagues. The first is from Abington Lacrosse. The last day for spring lacrosse sign-up will be this Thursday, January 15th. Online registrations are available at leaguelineup.com/welcome. And the second's from the Abington Girls Softball registration. Abington Girls Softball is pleased to announce that they will be conducting registrations for their upcoming spring season on Saturday, January 17th at Beaverbrook Elementary School from 9 to 1. All girls in grade K through 8 are welcome to play.
Is that it?
That's it, that's
Okay.
two.
Yep. Okay. There's no limit. You can keep going if you want. Mr. Burbine?
Just want people to know that nomination papers for the annual town election are available now at the town clerk's office. The election is April 24th. If anybody's interested in running for office, you can get those papers at the town clerk's office. And also, the Charter Review Committee is holding a public hearing on January 21st, 2015, 7 o'clock here in the Carter Room to review the preliminary recommendations of the Charter Review Committee's deliberations. So if anybody's interested, they can go on the town website. There's a red line version of the charter up there for people to take a look at, and we really appreciate people coming to give us their input on our recommendations on the 21st.
Thank you, Andy. The first thing that I have is kind of a really neat program. As you're probably well aware, an Eagle Scout, they all have to have a project, and Troop 41 here in Abington, in conjunction with the Abington Fire Department and the Abington Senior Center, under the direction of Eagle Scout candidate Max Stone, is offering free home safety checks to Abington seniors. And what the checks are, they check and replace the smoke alarm batteries, they check and replace the carbon monoxide detector batteries, and they ensure that all the devices are in working order. So it's a very worthwhile project. On the bottom of your screen, there should be a phone number that you can contact Mr. Stone at. And you can leave a message, provide your name, address, and phone number, you will be contacted to schedule an appointment. So that's a great no-charge thing for our seniors. Another kind of neat thing going on, sponsored by Arbella Insurance in Abington High School and the Abington Police Department, is Distractology 101 program during the week of February 2nd between 7:30 and 3 o'clock. This program offers video simulations of real-life driving scenarios and teaches new drivers the dangers of driving distractions, including texting behind the wheel. It's a mobile, 36-foot-long classroom. It's a 45-minute instructional learning experience with a 20-minute reinforcement. Arbella Insurance is sponsoring it. Please sign up at the Abington High School with Assistant Principal Sullivan. Students with a learner's permit or have had the license less than 3 years are encouraged and eligible to participate, and each student participates will receive a $15 gas card. Couple things too, and you can, going on to the library, and you can learn more about them at the library website. Quickly, a brainstorming program, which is a mentalist, Rory Raven, on Wednesday, January 28th. This sounds really exciting, and I will be there if anybody wants to read my mind. And also, seasonal craft evening program on February 5th, will features Valentine's Day projects and promises to be an evening filled with creativity and fun. So if anybody's wondering what to get me for Valentine's Day. Okay, our first public appointment at 6:35 is a joint meeting with the Board of Sewer Commissioners to fill a vacancy on the Board of Sewer Commissioners. If we can have the Sewer Commissioners come up here to this table, I would appreciate it. Thank you. We have one candidate, so this should be pretty easy, I hope. Christine Hendrickson, Christine, would you like to come to the microphone and maybe just, people out there in TV land and ourselves and the members of the Sewer Commission, maybe just a brief rundown of, why you want to be on the Sewer Commission.
Okay. Well, why I want to be on the Sewer Commission is I've lived in this town for 20 years, raised my daughter in the town, and I've always had an interest in doing something to give back to the town of Abington. And I haven't really pursued it, I should say, actively, as I'm working full-time as a human resources professional for 30 years, and I'm sort of semi-retired from doing that. And this is a time in my life where this is something I could, take on and want to do. So it's apparent by my resume or whatever you've seen, my credentials. I don't know details about, sewer or the water department or anything, but I've worked for many different organizations as a human resources director and got to know the business at hand and was able to help in the management part, policy, budget, procedures, setting policy, writing policy, and so forth.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. I forgot to ask, are you guys in session?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, you are, okay, good. I guess I'll let you guys, do you have any questions you want to ask Christine, or?
No, I'm satisfied. Resume speaks for itself. Mike?
I'm satisfied,
Good?
yeah.
Board members, any questions?
I have no questions.
I just want to know, would you buy a used car from those three?
It's a good
I
thing
buy
we're
my
not-
used cars at Midway.
It's a good thing we're not selling cars.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for stepping up and volunteering for the position.
Thank you, Maureen.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Anybody's free to make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Christine.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor from our board of, well, I guess, how does this work?
We'll make a motion
Yeah,
also.
you can take your vote.
Okay. Mike? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll make a motion to appoint Christine Hendrickson to the Board of Sewer Commissioners.
And
This
I'll
would-
second that.
And this would be for the unexpired term of Jerry Cochran.
So it's till the spring
Till the
elections.
spring election.
So the
Correct.
spring election.
Yeah. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations, Christine.
Thanks, Christine.
We have to vote on those when we can.
She has to be sworn in.
We'll leave. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. See ya.
Very efficient, I like
You can't, you have to be sworn in.
6:45, joint meeting with the school committee to fill vacancy on the school committee. I don't think this is going to be quite as easy as that one.
Yeah.
Yep. Do it tomorrow.
Leanne Adams, you know Leanne, right? Leanne.
Can I just, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
just,
sir.
To avoid confusion, if Christine presents herself tomorrow at the town clerk, she can be sworn in, I assume. Does she need a letter or anything like that? or-
We'll have Rick, let her know about the vote. Should be all set.
Okay.
Ellen, is your board in session?
No, we need to go into session. Call to order of the Abington School Committee, tonight being Monday, January 12th, for our combined meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. We have 3 candidates for the opening on the school committee, and it's the same deal. It lasts, it's an unfilled term, so it will last until the spring elections. We have Mr. Robert Burke, Ms. Leslie O'Neill, and Mr. Robert Taylor. If we have the 3 candidates here, we have 2 out of the 3 candidates here. Okay. I informed the candidates, so we jointly informed the candidates that they have a couple minutes to speak if they'd like. And I guess I'll just take them in the listing that I have here. Robert Burke, would you like to come up to the microphone? And
Mr. Taylor's coming too.
oh, Mr. Taylor's, okay, fine. Mr. Burke, would you like to come up to the microphone and, you know, give a couple minutes or a minute or two and just maybe go over, you know, why you're running for the office, why you want to be appointed, if you could, please. Welcome.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I just
Yes.
say, how's this process going to work as far as questions, if there are questions of...
It can work any way you want it to work. My thoughts were to let each of the 3 candidates talk for a couple minutes, and then I would turn it over to your board, and if you board members had questions, you could ask, and if we had questions, we could ask. And then afterwards, probably to make things easier, I would ask for a nomination to put all 3 candidates' names on the ballot, so to speak, so we can vote, and then just take a roll call vote, and let you guys go first on that.
Okay, will the questions be the same from each board, or will it...
I would like the questions to be directed to all 3 candidates, and they can answer it, and then we'd rotate so that the next, if there's another question, another person will get the answer first. If that's...
Okay, but we're not going to use the same, I'm just asking as far as the same questions going to be asked of each candidate.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, that's only fair.
right, okay, just...
Sorry, Robert.
No problem, thank you. My name is Robert Burke. I'm a resident of Abington. I've had 3 boys go through the Abington Public Schools. I want to participate in the school committee because the Abington Public Schools is a good school system. We would like to see it grow and become a better school system than what it is, with great opportunity with the new high school / middle school. Again, I've been a resident of Abington for the last 8 years. I've been an EMT for 20 years, and I feel that my critical thinking and quick decision-making will be a benefit to the school board.
Okay, thank you. Our next candidate will be Leslie O'Neill. Leslie, if you want to come up. A couple minutes, thank you.
Board of Selectmen and school committee members. My name is Leslie O'Neill, and I am a resident of Abington and a working mother of 3. All 3 of my children attend Beaverbrook Elementary School. I am here to kindly ask for your consideration in allowing me to join the Abington School Committee for the temporary position that is currently available. For those who do not know me, I figured I would share a little bit about myself. I know you have a lot to review this evening, so I will make it quick. My love for volunteering began years ago when my children were little. I became involved in a charity called Birthday Wishes. Birthday Wishes is a nonprofit organization that provides birthday parties to children living in shelters in Massachusetts. I baked, decorated, and delivered birthday cakes to homeless children throughout the South Shore. From there, I joined St. Bridget's Parish here in town and signed on to teach religious education for grades 1 through 6. This year will mark my 7th year teaching children. My work with Beaverbrook Elementary School includes aspects such as using social media in a positive way to develop a Facebook page called Beaverbrook Parents Page, in which parents and teachers can come together as a joint team. I was also voted in as co-chair of the Beaverbrook PTO for the school year of 2013 and 2014, which we proudly created a new speaker series to help educate parents on important subject matters such as bullying awareness. As of this year, I am currently volunteering within the art room on a weekly basis, working with 1st and 2nd graders. After reading through the policies of the school committee and their policies and procedures, I understand that there's never enough we can provide for our children. But in reality, as a community, we are on a budget. I respect and support the Abington School Committee's responsibility to establish policies and approve programs that will maximize the educational achievement of all students in Abington. I have always been proud of my work with children, and I strongly believe that our children must always remain our top priority. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to consider me for this position. We as a community can and will continue to make a difference for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Robert Taylor. Did you say he's here? Is he hiding? Mr. Taylor, if you'd like to come up to the microphone in a couple minutes, let us know what, why you're interested in this position, please.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank the Selectmen and the school committee for allowing me to be here tonight. I never thought this opportunity would arise. I see that you're in need of a person in the school committee. I've lived in town for approximately 10 years. The one thing I can bring to the table is I have 33 years of experience working in the public safety field. And part of that was running a group of people in the state of Massachusetts. I was the president of the board of directors and also an auditor. But most of all, I have an interest in it, having a 17-year-old daughter who goes through the school system, not here in the town of Abington, but in another school system. And it's really about the needs and the wants of the kids of the community. I feel that's something that I can bring to the table, having been a co-founder of a Masonic chip fraternity. We've done over 400,000 kids free of charge to the kids in the Commonwealth of Mass. But I feel that wanting to be physically sound and also being a taxpayer in the town, wanting to make sure that we head in the right direction for the needs of the kids. And honestly, that's the reason for me wanting to apply for this position, because I feel that we need to have stability within the school department. Haven't seen some of the tapes as far as what the school committee is all about. It's really looking out for the needs and the wants. We have a new school coming on the horizon, but we also have to make sure that the kid is well-rounded, not only academically, but athletically, and making sure and providing the needed services for the town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ellen, I don't know if you want to take it from here and see if all your members, see if they have any questions to ask. And like I said, I'd like to rotate, so that maybe Leslie can go with the first question, and then Bob can ask the first question, answer the second question, okay?
I'll have some questions. Did you want to ask a question, Paul?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Are we going to invite each up?
Yeah, Leslie, can you come up and answer the first question, please? Yeah, thank you.
You want to start?
Yeah. What do you think is expected of you as a school committee member?
Many things. I think as a new member, I think knowing the policies and the procedures, although it will take a little while to kind of understand them and be very clear on them, I think that knowing the general laws of the Commonwealth and what we need to do to make sure that we operate within those laws and within the budget that we have provided to us. I think that we need to put our children first with all of those decisions. Some of those decisions may or may not be difficult ones. And I think that we need to work together as a team to make sure that we provide the best education and environment for our children.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, would you like to answer that question?
Sorry.
Can you come up and answer this question?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, we will. Come on up.
What do you think is expected of you as a school committee member?
To make sure that we try to work within confines of the budget and trying to achieve a goal as far as trying to get things solved. Thank you.
Okay. Robert?
Same question, Bob. What do you think is expected of you as a school committee member?
What I feel is expected of me and what would be expected of the school committee is to properly review the policies and procedures so that the best is put forward for the kids of Abington, making sure that the kids are first and that the, education goes forward to the best of its ability and to be there for the kids at the best that we can do.
Thank you. Any other questions or from?
Yeah, I have a question.
We'll start with Mr. Taylor. If you want to come up and you can answer this question first, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the Abington Public Schools going forward?
I think the biggest thing is trying to work with the state, trying to get some funding. That's really the key. Funding is the key to get programs achieved, to get special needs achieved. I think that's a real big plus, trying to work with the state government and the state reps, the state senators, the governor. I know that's on his agenda. Schools are really big with him. I think that's a plus with me. The other night I happened to be with the governor, and I feel that I would probably be able to reach him in a way that other people wouldn't be on a one-to-one basis, and trying to maybe him looking at Abington as a role model and maybe coming in with a program for the school department so that they can achieve a goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, are we losing track? Who goes next? Mr. Burke? Yeah. Sure.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the Abington Public Schools going forward?
Special education. Special education is the #1 downfall that Abington Public Schools have had over the last 10 years. They've fallen from being one of the top 10 special education programs down, beyond the top 10. And I feel that the kids of Abington deserve to be in the top 10 for the special education. So special education is the #1 need that needs to go forward. Over the last few months, we've been trying to get the Abington CPAC back in store and back up and running. And I actually put my name in as the chairman for the Abington CPAC, and I would like to try to see the special needs programs is the #1 priority.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill, would you like to answer this question?
What do you feel is the #1 issue facing the Abington Public Schools going forward?
After reviewing the preliminary budget meeting last week, I think that maximizing what we do have in the school systems with the budget that we are allowed to really benefit our children the best possible way we can. I know that that's a difficult task, and I know that we can make it work with some decisions back and forth, kind of going with it, what the community wants and what we can actually provide. I think that's something that might always be an issue, but it's something that we can at least tackle together. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'll poll all members for questions now, if that's agreeable. Mike, do you have any questions? Or?
Yeah.
Let's start with Mr. Burke on this one, I think, if I'm going in the right order.
Mr. Burke, how do you feel about users fees imposed on student athletes and band and extra activity? What's your position on that? What do you feel?
I'm against user fees for the fact that, sports are a part of high school and a part of the school's system. And, we should, as a town, should be able to help the kids take on that cost and not put that cost back onto the children, on the kids, because, it's important for the kids to be well-rounded educationally, athletically, in extracurricular activities. So any activities, I feel, should not be, no fee should be used.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill will be next on answering this question.
You want me to repeat?
Sure.
The use of user fees in the Abington school system is imposed on student athletes and band and extracurricular activities. What's your opinion on that?
Unfortunately, I'm not educated fully on how much the user fees are, so I don't want to portray an opinion if I'm not educated on it. I do know there are some user fees when the cheerleaders want to use the gym and they have to pay for that. I don't know how much cost is involved in that, and I definitely would like to know more about that. As of right now, I do feel like it is sort of necessary to charge some families for the gym for the cost of the electricity, or for there to be a janitor there, or things like that. It's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Taylor, would you like to answer that question, please?
Going to repeat the question, Bob?
I have to say I'm against user fees. I think that you're really providing certain kids, allowing them to be in a sport of sorts. But then you have a kid that maybe a parent has 4 or 5 kids, and they can't afford to put these kids in this program. I think you have to be more constructive. Money's never really an object, it's how you approach it, like working with other civic groups within the town. If the school department can't come through with the money, seeing if they can provide the funding. I don't think kids and parents should be put in that position. They pay enough as it is to put a kid through school, clothing, whatever. And I agree with his comment as far as a well-rounded student, but I think now we're getting to the point that we're really overburdening the parents with user fees, and I don't think, we really have to come up with a better plan, because I don't think user fees are really the way we should be going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Maureen, do you have a question?
No, not.
Okay, Tom?
No, I think Mike Korowski asked mine, were there significant
one.
issues?
And this will start with Ms. O'Neill first. Okay.
I'm sure you're all aware that this term, or this appointment would run out at the
In
town
April.
election in April.
Yes, sir.
Would you intend to run for the position?
I would, certainly.
And next would be Mr.
Burke?
Taylor?
I'm sorry,
Actually,
Mr.
Mr. Taylor will be next.
Council can repeat that, I apologize.
You're aware that this appointment will run out in April.
Yes.
Do you plan on running for the position?
No, I
Town
don't.
election?
At this point, I don't have any intentions. The purpose was to give back to the town. Having lived here for 10 years, I wanted to step up to the plate and be assistance to the school committee. I don't have any intentions of running for the position come April. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Burke?
Yes, I will run for the seat.
Thank you.
I have a question, so the first question, Mr. Taylor, you could answer this question, and I'm going to go there. I guess it's a Common Core question. My understanding, and if I'm wrong on this, let me know, what the school committee has decided, and the school superintendent has decided not to go with Common Core testing this year. It's going to stay with the MCAS, is that correct? Or maybe that's layman's terms, but are you in favor of the school committee's decision not to use Common Core testing this year? And if so, why are you in favor of that?
I'm not too familiar with it, so I can't really comment on it at this point, as far as the testing purposes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Mr. Burke, you next.
I am in favor for it at this point because on the Common Core, there's not enough results to show the differences between the MCAS and the Common Core.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill?
Kenny, just.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, it's the park testing,
Right, but...
right? Just for.
I'm sorry, yes.
Just for the
I
terminology.
forgot what that abbreviation was, but
Yep.
that's basically Common Core, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Common Core is the curriculum that's already in place.
Mhm.
The park is the testing.
That goes along with the...
Right.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to read the question again, or do you want me to just answer?
You know,
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
I know,
okay.
I remember what you said.
Okay.
I support the decision of sticking with what we have right now, the MCAS, due to the fact that within our school systems, we don't have the technology to provide our children with the park testing. And I think it would be absurd to have them write all their booklets and their tests hands-on when it is provided to many other schools via computer and via tests. Unfortunately, with what we have in our schools, we don't have the technology to provide it for them.
Thank you. Do your board members have any other questions, or?
I just have one question, just because two of the candidates brought it up.
You've got to answer this one first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think Mr. Burke would go first again, and then, yes, Ms. Neal.
And just, because two candidates brought it, what role does policy have in the functioning of the school committee?
Policy is, I mean, the policy is the core of the school committee and the foundation, and to follow the policy is the way that you have to go. If you try to vary from the policy, you're opening up a whole can of worms that you don't want to open. So we need to follow the policy and procedures that are already outlined for us.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill?
The policies are regulated by the state, and unfortunately, we can't really change that. So we have to honor those policies and work within those means that we have to work with.
Thank you. And Mr. Taylor, please.
In any type of governmental body, you have to have policies and procedures that gives you a guidance as far as where you're going. It's necessary to have policies and procedures. It's a basis for everything, to make things run smoothly.
Okay, thank you. If it's agreeable to both boards, I'd just like to place all three names in nomination, and I'll entertain that motion, just...
So moved.
Okay, motion is made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor from our board?
Aye.
Opposed? Set. And then you could take it from here if you want to take the same vote, or however you want to do
So
it.
we're making a vote to put
All
all
three names,
candidates.
yeah, in nomination.
So we're looking to make a motion to put all three names up for a selection.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
You can run any way you want, if you want to just do a roll call vote, if you want to ask people, who they vote for, if you want to mention the name and then how many votes they get, and then we'll follow suit.
So, I guess we'll do it alphabetically then. So the first candidate is Mr. Robert Burke.
So,
And then the next one will be Ms. Leslie O'Neill.
So how are we doing? Are you giving the name and then we doing a roll call vote?
however, I mean, I know you folks wanted to, vote first, so I mean, if you want to, if you want to do however, if you want the person, I would raise your hand when she calls it out.
Okay,
That's
so
what I would
are
do.
we
And
starting?
then we'll follow suit and do the same thing after you guys vote.
Okay, so are we going to,
We're gonna, we can do it, where we're gonna say the candidate's name, and then
All the
if
names
you're-
are in nomination, so.
Wouldn't you make a motion, though, for one of the names
I
in
think, no,
nomination?
I think you just, like Kenny said, I think you just read out the name and people raise their name for that particular individual.
yeah, that works for me, yeah.
If you'd rather, I can call a name out and we can all vote
can
together.
all do it
It doesn't
together.
matter to me. I thought,
We'll do it, we'll,
do yours?
yeah.
Okay,
sure.
that's fine.
Okay, so the first candidate is Mr. Robert Burke. So Paul's on there. Ms. Leslie O'Neill. And Mr. Robert Taylor.
Okay, then I will do the same thing with our board. Mr. Robert Burke. Ms. Leslie O'Neill. And Mr. Taylor. Okay, congratulations, Ms. O'Neill. Okay, and I'd like to thank all three candidates for coming and giving us, yes?
I just want to say that all three of you gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen conducted yourselves very, very well. I was impressed with, sometimes it's a difficult thing. I know how hard it is to stand up there, and how hard it is sometimes to sit in this position and have people sit in front of you when you have to openly vote. It sometimes seems like we're voting against you, and we're not. Honestly, we're not. It's just that we can only vote for one. But again, I salute your efforts, and well done. Thank you.
Could I,
Of course.
if I just like to take the vote again, just to make it unanimous? If that would be,
That's certainly fine.
yeah, so I'd
I'm gonna-
make a motion, or however, make it unanimous for Leslie.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Noted.
I'd
Yeah,
like to
go.
also reiterate what Mr. Franny said. We've all been on that side of the podium. It's not fun, and thank everybody for stepping up. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, folks. for coming.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So at this point, somebody needs to make a motion.
Thanks.
to go out of
Thank you.
session.
Thank you.
We'll go out of session.
Let's make a motion to go out of session.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. I think it went fairly smooth.
Ellen, should just remind her, she has to get sworn in, too.
Thank you. 7 o'clock, and we have an appointment with Attorney John J. Walker, and if he would like to come up to the microphone, and Rick, maybe you can give us a little breakdown on what this is about, if you could?
Briefly, I was hoping Mr. Walker could do that, actually, but we did get a
Okay,
call
that's
from
fine.
Mr. Walker just several weeks ago, I can't remember the exact date, and his concern is that there's an issue of land ownership that's really a technicality that has to do with the old LIP project, local initiative petition in Abington up in Gillespie Way. So that was the premise. We did speak to town council. Town council has made a recommendation on what the board should vote tonight, that it's a legitimate issue, that it is indeed a technicality, but because it is a little bit confusing, we thought Mr. Walker was nice enough to come in and explain this in as much detail as you feel you need.
Is there special wording for our vote?
Yes.
Oh, good, I can read it. All right, Mr. Walker, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Walker. I'm an attorney. My office is in Weymouth. And before I get into anything, I would like to say that I'd like to thank Mr. LaFond and Ms. Jamison. They were exceptionally helpful and available during the holiday season, which I know is a little difficult for everybody. And you know, I do want to thank them for their assistance in this matter this evening. Historically, in about 2006, a subdivision at Gillespie Way was approved with a 40B low-income provision. The homeowner in question this evening is Mr. Paul Beaupre, is here this evening. And what occurred is that in 2009, it was determined that his lot was not quite appropriate relative to zoning setbacks. That was determined when they were trying to do a fence. What occurred next was that this matter was brought to the attention of the town, and eventually it was through the planning board that an A&R, approval not required plan, was in fact approved, cutting from the lot of the abutter at Christine Ward, a piece that I describe as being approximately a foot wide. It's useless for any other purpose other than to help him comply with zoning. At the same time, a small sliver of Mr. Beaupre's lot was carved out to be exchanged with Ms. Ward. After that, everything was thought to be okay. Mr. Beaupre listed his property for sale last year. An offer was accepted. The sale was supposed to close last week. What occurred is that the title attorney for the buyer said that the existence of the 1-foot strip, which unfortunately the Christine Ward's lot is one of the low-income lots, is encumbered with this restriction. I had a slightly different opinion, but not looking forward to spending $10,000 or $15,000 of my client's money to litigate the issue, I reached out first to the town and to the state, and I was made aware of this on or about December 4th. I believe my first conversations were with the town through the building department and the planning office on the 5th, eventually speaking with Ms. Jamison, thereabouts on that time frame. I was also engaged in dealing with the state, the Department of Community and Housing Development, their legal department. At their request, I drafted a proposed release and forwarded it to them, as well as to the town. Their legal counsel made some revisions to that, which is the version which is in front of you now. whereby the only thing being asked is that the low-income restriction on that sliver of land be released. It was on, I believe, December 11th that I got the draft from DCHD and forwarded it at that point in time to the town manager's office. I don't recall the exact date when town council got involved, but it was well in advance of the holidays, because we were attempting to try and get on your agenda for December 22nd, so that we would have this addressed before we had the closing date. When that meeting was canceled, that wasn't possible, obviously. Last week, I received from Ms. Jameson your council's comments relative to the request, and I take issue with them, in particular the authorization to release. She cites General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 3, which a clear reading of the statute says at the beginning that the selectmen may execute deeds. We're not asking for you to address any piece of real estate that the town owns. In fact, the piece of real estate was owned by Christine Ward and subject to a restriction, merely that her ability to gain from the sale of land is capped. The reality of it is the only person affected by this now in the entire town is the current property owner, Mr. Beaupre. I will tell you that Mr. Beaupre's purchase and sales agreement was canceled by the prospective buyer last week. They have been harmed. Now, the second point here that they raise is variance and modifications. That would have been addressed by the planning board back at the time that it was determined at town that they were the appropriate body to determine what needed or needed not to be done in order to accommodate the subdivision and transfer of land. This parcel of land is registered land, so it's also subject to the auspices of the land court. The land court approved the subdivision again in 2010 after the plan, which had been signed by the planning board, was delivered to them. So the necessary steps to approve the subdivision and transfer of land, in my opinion, have been accomplished. Again, there is no attempt here to take anything away from the inhabitants of the town of Abington, because the town of Abington doesn't have anything here. There's merely a restriction on Ms. Ward's ability to gain from the sale of the land, and now that one, again, 1 foot strip where it sits right on the property line and he could only put a fence is what's being encumbered. So I disagree with her that it's something that needs to go to town meeting. Now, her letter does state that we talked about that, and yes, we did, and I suggested to her that in the event that it was determined that it was necessary, but she had not cited to me at that time any statutes to refer to, that I would respectfully request that the board sign the release subject to ratification at town meeting if it was deemed necessary. But again, I don't believe it's necessary. The ratification process, I think, is not an interest that the town has. It's not an ownership interest in real estate. It's not something where the town is determining whether or not they're going to gain from the profit or sale of the property. And then, lastly, relative to those two particular points, none of those issues were raised by DCHD. The only thing that DCHD asked was whether or not town council had the opportunity to review the language in the release. Now, going forward, who's affected by this? Again, only the property owner, Mr. Beaupre, because technically if this is there and it is an issue, then this impacts his ability to sell his property, at least until town meeting, if you so determine that you cannot do this. Mr. Beaupre, like I said, has already lost one sale. He has a contract for purchase of another property. He's also rented an apartment that he was going to be in the interim. And so he has suffered, financially to a magnitude that is not, minute. It is a significant number. And the reality of it is, again, the only people that are going to be affected by this is Mr. Beaupre, not any other inhabitant of the town of Abington. I'd be happy to address any questions that you have relative to this. I believe you were all provided with a copy of the documents as well as a plan showing the parcels. If not, I'd be happy to give you one.
Do you have a copy of the plan?
Yeah. I have a large version of the plan, which wouldn't be easy to hand around, but I do have
You can lay it out here.
a reduction. The parcel that we're talking for the release for is in green, parcel 47.
Thanks.
And the parcel that was exchanged is the one, excuse me.
That's okay.
Your name, is the parcel in yellow, which, and again, I only saw the comments from town council on Friday. And at that point in time, the release signed by DCHD had already been sent out to you. The comments from council suggest that her opinion is that it should be an amendment. I feel that we're talking semantics here, whether we're releasing that little strip of land or whether we're amending it to release that strip of land. Regardless, it's what we title a document, I think, is not important. It's the actual effect and the practical effect on the people involved.
But isn't her point so that Lot 49 would come within the...
Again, I only found out on Friday, after the state had signed on the 7th and forwarded it out to Dory, that, and I have no problem, speaking with legal counsel at DCHD and having them draft a subsequent document to incorporate that.
Okay.
But it's not something that I could do unless somebody asked me to do it.
I know Andy's going to ask questions. Any other members have any questions? Mr. Burbine?
I feel for your clients, believe me. It's a horrible situation to be in. But we have an opinion here from town council saying that even if we sign it, it's not going to be in effect until town meeting. So her last suggestion is that we sign the release, state in the release that it will take effect only when town meeting has authorized it. I would not be object to doing that. I'm just not sure how that's going to stand when you go to sell a property, if that's going to raise the same issue.
And I appreciate your question. It's just that, I think the reference in where she's hanging her hat is on, Chapter 40, Section 3, and that speaks directly to the ownership of land. It doesn't speak to, like I said, you don't have an ownership interest here. You don't even own rights in the proceeds of the real estate. All you have is a restriction that prevents the owner from profiting on the sale of the land beyond the limits of the statute. So I don't see how the chapter applies, and I was not able to engage in this discussion. So.
Can I maybe suggest that the board add another contingency that either upon town meeting vote or certification from town council that town meeting vote is not necessary? That would allow, and if the boards would be willing to allow, again, Mr. Walker to have a consultation with our town council so this can be cleared up, because this really is a legitimate technicality.
Oh, it is.
That's all it is. And if there's a way for this not to be held up, that's fine. But barring that, obviously, we're going to pursue.
When do we meet again?
26th of February.
Would that give you some, if we didn't do anything and you had an opportunity to talk to town council and maybe convince her otherwise, and between now and then, you want to take that chance?
First off, I don't think the statute applies, and I think it's a misdirected comment by counsel. I'm not sure that a conversation is going to change her mind. I'm happy to engage in that conversation, but I'm not sure it's going to change her mind. The more pressing issue is that my clients, with this hanging over their heads, can't even list the property. And, you know, I would ask you to seriously consider, stepping outside of the suggestion of counsel, because, again, if you can tell me how this impacts anybody in the town other than Mr. Beaupre, I will gladly take and run with this ball in any direction you ask me to go in. But I can't find one, and I very, sincerely think that either can anybody else in this town or town council.
Mike, you want to say something?
Yeah, town meeting is like, they're the boss. And they made the recommendation on a thing, and it puts us in a highly technical thing. I support what the town manager, Mr. Burbine, if in fact that the statute or what she's hanging her hat on, whatever she's quoting as a law or stuff like that, can be remedied in some fashion. I'll give you my support when it goes to town meeting. I'll support it 100%. I'll go on the floor at town meeting and support it. I know that doesn't do any good for this gentleman and this couple to get their property done, but it's just tough for this board to do anything else besides either have it remedied if our town council says, okay, sign it, but you have to have, or like what Rick said. I don't know. I mean, it seems like you're very effective in your talking to us. Maybe you've already talked to Sharon.
I've had only a 5-minute conversation with her when she asked
my
me for a
preference would
copy
be
of
to
the
try to
plan,
sit
and then
down
said
with
she had
her
it.
between now and the next meeting. We'll put you up to the chairman, but we'll bring you right up, and we won't have to wait. I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
Either that or take Rick's suggestion, and if that gives you a little,
Right,
you wouldn't have to come back if you can convince town council otherwise.
Exactly. I would be okay voting, signing it, and if town council just gives us a letter saying it's okay to do it, then release it without even coming before us or the town meeting.
Would it be possible for me to suggest to you that, and granted, I am willing to do that, I'm willing to, have the conversation, I have no problem with that. Would it be possible for me to suggest to you that if we went with Rick's suggestion, that not only that it be signed and held by, you can be held by the town manager's office, I have no problem with that, but that we also get a letter from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, that the Board of Selectmen has voted to support this at town meeting.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Fine.
I have no problem with that.
And that we be allowed to have signed copies of the document and the letter, obviously, so that we can show prospective buyers, if they raise the issue, that we have addressed it, and it's simply a question of getting the rubber stamp that I think we all know is going to happen.
The timing is bad.
Absolutely.
I'd support that.
I would have no
Timing's
problem.
horrible.
It is.
It's
awful.
I know Andy sits in my chair on occasion,
Yes,
so.
it's not a good place to be. Rick?
I think that's a fair suggestion, and I'm sure that we can draft a letter that the chairman is prepared to sign to that extent. That would, if that's no objection.
Paul, do you have any questions or comments?
Can I ask a question? If this didn't get signed, our house is non-conforming, right? So back from the beginning of time, 2008, when we purchased our home, it was surveyed incorrectly from the beginning. It's a 40B neighborhood. Who's responsible for that?
Good question.
Anyone know the answer to that?
Who did the survey?
So the town had to sign off on this neighborhood if it's 40B, correct?
Yeah, when did this land swap take effect, though, these two?
Well, the plan was.
February 26, 2010, I have a signed letter.
So that was after you purchased the property, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, but if the land was surveyed improperly, then who's responsible?
Oh, you mean initially, when it was,
Correct.
yeah, when it was laid out? Well,
Correct. And it's signed off on by the town, it's a 40B neighborhood.
I don't know who the engineer was
I don't
who
either.
conducted that
We
survey.
know who the engineer is, but I mean, the town approved it, correct? So doesn't it come back to the town at some point? This has affected us
Financially, like.
beyond financially, but I also have two elderly parents that I am taking care of. One with Alzheimer's. We're trying to get them into a home with us. This is beyond anything I can imagine.
it's awful. I agree. It's a horrible place to be.
And it's been something that's been in the works since 2010.
But we're trying to work with you. It's hard for me personally to have our town attorney, that we spend a lot of money to have, to say, you better hold off. But I think we're even kind of going against what they're saying and trying to give you guys a shot to meet with them and work it out, you know? And I'll sign a letter if the board votes it, absolutely.
Okay, so
Where do we go from here?
So,
We're gonna
I
make
think the two pieces, one, add the contingency, either subject to a town meeting vote or certification from town council that a town meeting vote isn't necessary, and to provide you a letter from the chairman of the board stating that the board intends to support this at town meeting if it's required. Is that what you were seeking?
I thought we were having the document signed in
Well,
the event that it,
Yeah, right, I understand, I'm sorry, yes.
okay?
That was my understanding.
Could we also add to that, that if town council, if they come to an agreement, town council says you don't require the town meeting vote, that we can just release it then and there,
That would-
without even
make sense, yes.
having a meeting,
Correct, correct. That
Okay.
would-
So when can, I don't mean to interrupt, but when can that take place, tomorrow?
as soon as he meets with
Yes.
town council.
Well, that's whenever, Mr. Walker and town council can
Get together.
have an in-depth
speak.
conversation about this, which is their schedules, not our schedules. So,
Can we talk to town council and see if we can
if we
declare
can,
it's emergency to
we
meet?
can certainly do that.
soon as
First, we will
possible.
do that first thing in the morning, yes.
Do you want a formal motion, or do you have the gist of what we want?
We have the gist of it, if
You guys
you feel comfortable
have an understanding of what we want? and-
voting those pieces.
I understand what you want, like I said,
So we can know something as early as tomorrow?
Well, that, again, that, I
Well,
can't speak for the schedule.
goes with that.
I can't speak to the schedule of your attorney and our attorney. That's tough enough to...
Right, if the attorneys, if the town council will agree, then you're all set,
Right.
you know, according to the vote we've taken.
Right.
Right.
That's what's contingent.
They wouldn't have to come before us, they wouldn't have to go to town meeting if they can agree.
Sign up on anything?
Well, they're
Well,
going
I'll sign it,
to,
but-
they're going to sign it anyway, but it's not going to be, it's going to be held in the town manager's office until such time the town council's, and your attorney may agree that town meeting vote isn't necessary. The fallback is that if that, there's no agreement on that, the chairman of the board will write a letter for your benefit, telling, so that any prospective buyer knows that the selectmen will support this at town meeting, if that's even necessary. Those are the pieces, correct?
yeah, I'd like to have that anyways.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
So worst case scenario, it doesn't get signed.
Well, no, it's getting
It'll
signed.
get signed, it just might not get released
getting
until town, I'm not suggesting this is gonna happen, but in the event that the document is signed tonight, Mr. Walker and town council agree tomorrow morning that, Mr. Walker's position is correct. In theory, you could have a document tomorrow, but the last thing I wanna do is provide any unreasonable hope, that's all. But that would be the status after tonight's vote, if the board so votes.
I
And
would-
if they could not come to agreement, if Mr. Walker and town council could not come to an agreement, you would still have a letter from the chairman of the selectmen saying that come town meeting, we will fully support it, but town meeting would have to.
Right, and it's already signed and being held here.
Right.
That's
But we
In the
would support
meantime-
it.
In the meantime, we show our house and, or show it over time, and we just wait for January 26th.
I don't know how that works.
I appreciate your position, but that's beyond my field of expertise. I think that's a lawyerly question between Walker and town council, so.
All right, so the board understands the motion, correct? Oh, yes.
How can something like this happen from 2010 to now? Just
I have
curious.
no idea.
I know you probably all weren't here on the board or whatever, but
No, and keep in mind, this is the first time tonight that they're even aware of this, other than seeing a packet on Friday morning and then the presentation tonight. This is the first the selectmen have even been exposed to this issue.
normally happen in towns like this?
I've never seen a situation like this in 20-plus years, so this is uncommon.
Has anybody ever experienced something like this?
Personally,
Yeah.
as Jay said, I'm an attorney, so I've seen things like this. It's not, as I said, it's a horrible place to be. It is.
You're not horrible right now.
I know.
For one foot.
Well, we'll do what we can to try to, at least try to expedite the end for everybody here, that's, but.
I'd make the motion that was outlined previously. And also with an urging to town council that if there is any wiggle room there, that she errs on the side of the
We will-
homeowner versus the town in this,
We'll
if there's any way that can be done.
We will express that.
Absolutely.
I would second that motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. And if you get something for me to sign, I can sign it, you know, with the
Certainly.
board's blessing. So,
Thank you,
Wish you luck.
appreciate your time.
crossing my fingers.
Thank you, because there's no way we could have explained that appropriately for the board without your presence tonight, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good
Thanks.
luck with them.
Okay. Approval of December 8th, 2014 open session and executive session minutes. December 8th. December 8th, Ms. Jansen was not present at that meeting.
That's correct.
Just had,
Mr. Burbine?
just on page 2, if we can just add the 2 abstention votes down the bottom there, voted 301. Just if we can add in who the abstentions were.
I'm sorry.
On Borderland, I was the abstention, and on Bailey's Garage, Mr. Franny was the abstention.
Same thing above, for Trukey's, you can mention that I was the abstention on that one. I know it's obvious, but.
Really?
Okay, I'm sorry, so just,
You don't want to spell Trukey's?
See where the abstentions are?
yes, so the
Trukey's
abstention on
Kenny?
on Bailey's Garage was
Tucci's?
Mr. Franny.
You can add an R in Trukey's if you want. So Mr. Burbine's making a motion as amended.
Yep.
For the open session minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention.
That's it. Thank you.
December 8th, executive session minutes.
Move they be approved and not released until all matters are resolved.
Motion's made by Mr. Burbine, seconded by Mr. Franny.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? One. Okay, Selectmen Policy Review. Selectmen's appointment, and this is part of a series where we're reviewing policies. We did one a month ago or so, and this policy is the appointment and reappointment process to be appointed to boards and committees. Are we looking it over tonight? Are we voting on it tonight? Are we
Well, the intent was to ensure that the board is exposed to it again tonight. Certainly, if you want to discuss it, feel free, but in the last policy, we actually voted on it at the subsequent meeting. So, and any feedback that anybody wishes to provide in the interim to me or Dory for possible updates, if you could do that. And just quickly, with regard to the last one, we were, because of the timeliness of it, the licensing process, we were able to get all the sign-offs from all the licensees as to their acknowledgement of the change in the policy. So, so we want to thank the police department for their assistance in getting those sign-offs in a timely manner. So, but again, it was appropriate that that was first because we were able to get that incorporated immediately.
Okay.
I just have a question on number 14. When would there be a situation where a non-resident may serve on a committee when the Board of Selectmen deems it is in the best interest of the board or committee in the town? Is that like the cable advisory or something like that?
Yeah, I know, for instance, it's sometimes you might have a desire to have somebody from a state agency, whether, or a technical advisor on a board who may live out of town but willing to serve. I've seen that occasionally. It's not common, but it does happen.
They a voting member?
That would be really up to the parameters of the Board of Selectmen. In the situation I've seen, the person was a voting member. I don't recall any non-unanimous votes, but it was, but again, that would be really up to the Board of Selectmen and how you set up a particular committee.
It could also be a case where someone moves out, but they've been on the board for a while, let them finish serving their term, or someone who, was a Cape resident or something, or...
But this is appointments, isn't it, and reappointments?
Yep. Right, but it also says non-residents may serve on a committee when the Board of
Just gives you the
Selectmen deems
option,
it.
though, it's not,
Gives a lot of trust in the Board of Selectmen. It's the best interest of the board of town, so, So we'll look this over and put on the agenda.
I just had a question for the administration. Is this policy okay with you? Is there anything in here that you think needs changing, or is it onerous on you guys as far as complying with it or anything? Or?
We haven't had any issues in the time I've been here. I would defer to Dory and you.
No, I haven't considered any issues.
We kind of reviewed this not that long ago. We went over some of the stuff.
2012.
Yeah. That's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
Okay, I thought it was fine.
Right, on the agenda for the next meeting, folks, is that all right?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Next, town manager's report.
Just a few things from my written update. First of all, some of you will, I'm sure, have tediously plodded through page by page the draft of a possible update to the personnel bylaw that I sent out via email. If anybody wants a hard copy to save yourself some copy paper at home, let me know. We'll be happy to get that to you. A quick reminder that I've met with some of you regarding the evaluation process for the town manager. Some of you still have to schedule that, so please drop me an email or a call at your convenience. Budget process, I expect by January 15th this week, there will be a budget recommendation transmitted to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen by me. I am trying to be careful as to how I couch it. As you know, there is no local aid resolution by any stretch of the imagination yet at the State House level. The governor has not obviously had a chance to construct a local aid proposal, so we just want to be cautious that everybody's aware of what that budget proposal is and what it isn't, and that'll be part of the cover letter. But I just want to, if you have questions about it when you see it, please let me know.
Is that based on your estimates for local aid? Because I did read you had estimates. Is that a balanced budget that you transmit to the Finance Committee?
Will be a balanced budget, yes. Unfortunately, a balanced budget that really incorporates a 1.67% increase in revenue, and when you take away anticipated increases in fixed costs, doesn't leave a lot of operational budget ability, about 1%. So that will obviously, without a local aid resolution that provides some additional local aid, that will make for a very difficult budget process.
You recommending any transfers from stabilization or anything of that nature?
In what you see this week, there will be no recommendation for that, no. And the reality is that based upon the fixed cost structure of the municipal departments versus like the school department, the school has more fixed costs, so the impact without a local aid resolution would be greater on the school department. There's no question about that. And so I don't want to call it, I guess to some extent there is a benefit to the fact that we don't have contracts in place. The fixed salary increases for next fiscal year would be fairly minimal on the, with the non-school departments, which certainly helps possible impact. But like I said, it's a little bit early. Right now we've got collective bargaining processes that are going on, and we don't have a local aid resolution. We don't even have a proposal. Mass Municipal Association, I know the School Superintendent's Association doesn't have any, there's really no quality information yet. As you wouldn't expect from a new administration that's been in place for a couple days. So that's why I say it's important that I'm being very careful how I couch it, because you could look at a proposal in January that looks like the sky is falling when we really don't have a lot of the major pieces that would be necessary to finish this process.
Was your local aid estimate level funded from last year?
Yes, 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 that's correct, right.
And has this preliminary budget, have you discussed this with the department heads, or is this just your budget?
As of right now, we've talked to the major department heads for whom we could see there being a significant impact. Some of the smaller departments, for instance, with no fixed, operational salary increases because of the collective bargaining condition. I can't say we've spoken to everybody, but we've tried to speak to people personally as opposed to just transmitting all over the place. So like I say, I'm trying to be careful how I couch it because, you've all been through it for a number of times for many years. What you see in January isn't necessarily what you see in April or what you see in May, so, but it is I think the intent would be a baseline for the remainder of the process, so.
And do you expect to begin meetings with, I know the Finance Committee by next week or whatever, but are you going to be doing those? In the past, we've had meetings where department heads came in with the town manager and spoke directly with the Finance Committee. Have you already talked to the chairman of the Finance Committee about what the go-forward will be?
Well, we have talked about having a meeting with the Selectmen and the FinCom would participate in. We talked about night meetings versus a weekend meeting, and one of the things we had considered is that attempting to do some of the major budgets on one long day could be tough, but if to the extent that some of the smaller departments could be part of a Saturday morning, and we could maybe take separate nights for some of the larger departments. That in itself would significantly reduce the time commitment of meeting with department heads. May not reduce the contemplation needs of the Finance Committee and the Selectmen, but at least to get some of the interviews out of the way while everything's still in context. One of the problems can be, you have a schedule and you meet with the department and you don't even meet with your last scheduled meeting until 3 weeks later, and the process has changed, the context might have changed a little bit. So we will be trying to schedule hopefully a date in February for a weekend date to try to take care of as many of the the smaller departments. Not that they're not as important, but they're just easier to digest. I think one of the suggestions that came up when we talked about a long Saturday was that by the time you sit through a school department budget, you're toast. No offense to the school committee. And, so it would be best maybe to have some of those major departments, the fire and police, on a separate night as opposed to try to incorporate all those into a Saturday meeting. But there's enough that we can probably do to save everybody a lot of time and energy.
But it is overall your plan to bring the department heads and you into meetings?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to think, we did hire this week Mr. Thomas McCarthy. Some of you may know him. I say we, technically it was the Veterans District, as the part-time Veteran Service Officer. He will be starting next week in a part-time capacity to round out the staffing of the Veterans District.
That's in Abington, or will he be back and forth?
It is my understanding at this point that he would be primarily in Whitman, in terms of his general office hours, which would mean that Mr. Crosby would be able to spend most of his time in Abington. But again, he starts next week. I'm sure that schedule's going to ebb and flow over time as they determine what the needs are overall. So,
is it just going to be the two of them, or is there going to be somebody else involved in the office work? Or?
It is our hope that the staffing will be sufficient. There is some minor funding for some part-time clerical assistance if necessary, but we don't anticipate that's going to be necessary at this point.
Excellent. Have we had any feedback at all? Anybody happy about it? Any complaints?
We just hired him today.
No, I don't mean about that. I mean about the district, the new district.
I haven't heard anything negative.
I'm sure if there's anything
I haven't
negative, we would've
actually,
heard it,
I know
but-
some of the people that have met directly with James have been complimentary, but it's been it's been stable. I consider quiet good. I know that the town officials in Whitman that I've spoken to are happy with so far, understanding that obviously, particularly since James is new to the position, he's been stretched a little thin as a new veterans agent. That's a bit of a challenge. The district is actually a little bit smaller than the town of Rockland in terms of its volume, and as you know, the veterans agent in Rockland has been handling that district by himself for several years. So, I think the volume is definitely serviceable by the 1.5 part-time people, but we have a new agent, learning the ropes a little bit, has compromised that a little bit. But to the best of my knowledge, people have been pretty understanding. I know the people that come into our office looking for the agent, and and he's available in Whitman today, and that's a little bit of an inconvenience, but people have been pretty good about it. And the demolition project at Griffin's Dairy, we had, actually, tomorrow, National Grid is going to be disconnecting the electricity to the property. So the asbestos abatement has been completed by the contractor, and once the electricity is disconnected, which has taken about 3 weeks which, from what I understand, is fairly normal scheduling for National Grid, then the actual demolition will occur. So you can look forward to that, so.
Mr. Freeney?
On the veterans agent, Rick, I happened to be up here the other day when a gentleman was looking for him. Is his hours posted so that somebody might be able to go somewhere and see, okay, it's in Abington Monday, Wednesday, and Friday,
Yeah, he has been, they are posted. I know he's in a
on our website or?
Monday and Wednesday in Abington, Tuesdays and Thursdays in Whitman so far, and then Friday would be as, by appointment or wherever he would be
Right,
needed
but
specifically.
is that on our website?
Not sure if the hours.
I mean, if it isn't, can
We will double, I'm almost positive it is, but we will double check.
Yeah, just so you have some,
I understand, yeah. So-
And now with the new hire too, the veterans agent office.
Absolutely.
Spending a lot more
Yeah.
time here in
Yeah.
Abington.
Yeah.
All right.
Any members have anything else? Public comment?
I guess it would come under public comment. Thank you for this expense comparison report that we received today. That's very helpful. I did have one question on it. I don't know if, just on the unemployment. Do we have anybody on unemployment? We do.
I brought these with me.
Want glasses?
No. Just because the budget shows $100,000 unemployment, we've expended about 34% of that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we know we've had conversations with the treasurer and is still comfortable with that figure.
Yes, okay. All right. So was that carried over to next year's budget also?
The estimate is similar.
Is it? Okay.
Right. So again, that's one of those fixed costs we hope we have.
Yeah, some wiggle room. Okay. Thank you.
And I just had a question, I'm looking for clarification, just when, I don't have it in front of me, but this afternoon when I looked at the snow and ice line, it looked like we had spent, I don't know what the numbers are, about 50,000 up to this point. Can you just comment on, is that for product, because it's obviously been a...
Right, product is the overwhelming majority of that cost to date, and there's been, I believe, about 8 or 9 salting and sandings. There hasn't been any, obviously there hasn't been any snow, but there has been, as of about a week and a half ago, there were about 7 salt and sand episodes that were, so those are the costs that go into that currently, right?
Is that what the numbers are?
Expended 73,000 and change
73 out of the 80?
out of the 100.
Out of the 100, okay. So product, obviously salt and sand is a big thing, and then you said 7 or 8 sanding events.
Right.
So we're probably not going to go over that budget this year.
Optimism.
would be
Well,
nice.
and to be fair, what's projected into next year's budget also is an over expenditure of about 400,000, which
Yeah.
is, historically, the town has spent about 500,000 in total, so it would be nice, I know we'd hoped to last year to try to flip-flop that dynamic a little bit, more in the budget, and have to plan for less over expenditure, but it didn't work out last year, and hopefully there'll be a little room this year where we can start to do that.
Keeping my fingers crossed and counting down the weeks till March.
Yeah. It's nice not to be the chairman of the Finance Committee, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Hi, Chad.
Oh, jeez, how about that?
Does anybody have anything else?
That was too easy.
All right, any
That was
public
too
comment
easy.
from the audience? Big crowd tonight? Nope. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.